Hello, church. Hope you are doing well. We're in Matthew chapter 13, starting in verse 10 through 17. We are continuing our lessons in Matthew. I hope you've been enjoying this. We are in that third section that we've talked about several times, in which he introduces the parables. There's going to be 7 parables that we'll look through in chapter 13. We've already looked at one of them. So last week we looked at, it'll be Sunday, I guess, we looked at the parable of the sower and how it was explained, and the different soils, and which one, and how they each received the gospel. And then the end of the question was, which one are you? Which soil are you? And we kind of introduced parables a little bit, but mostly that's going to be done today. The purpose of parables, why Jesus communicated in parables, that kind of stuff. That's going to be the main section for today. This may be a little bit shorter of a class just because we're just covering this one section, and then I'm going to save the rest of the parables for the next couple of classes. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Matthew chapter 13, and we'll start in verse 10. Matthew 13, starting in verse 10. We'll read 10 through 13, and then we'll do 14 through the rest of the chapter. Verse 10. Then the disciples came to him and said to him, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" And he answered them, "To you has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has more will be given, to the one who has abundance from the one who has not. Even what he has will be taken away. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand." And then we'll finish that in 1 second. I just want to split it up. So parables are something that Jesus is kind of famous for, especially in his teaching. Other people did it in that day, and there's even some in the Old Testament. There's one Judges, there's one Isaiah, there's one in Samuel. There's several of these parables, but Jesus is what really makes it popular. And he does it a lot more than anyone else at that time period, anyone else that we see. And he does it for various reasons. But if I was to ask you, why did Jesus give parables without thinking about anything he said here? If I just said, run up, why did Jesus speak to the crowds of parables? What would you say? You'd probably say, and this is what my first thought would be, is he did it so that they could easily understand hard, spiritual, non-concrete topics. So, I mean, the typical definition that parables are given is it's a heavenly, spiritual message, a spiritual picture, spiritual kind of teaching that is given in a story form that's with an earthly story form, something that we can see, something here. It's making the non-concrete very concrete. It's making the stuff that we can't see something we can see. So it'd be easier for the crowd to understand, for the people to hear and understand what he was talking about. Because if he went into theological things and where's God and all that, he may have lost it. That's probably what the typical answer is. And that's probably would have been my answer. But he doesn't say that. Instead, he says, this is why, verse 15, this is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see and hearing they do not understand. I speak in parables so that they will not see and they will not understand. Now, is he trying to withhold the truth from them? Is he trying to withhold the truth from these people? And the answer is no. He is not trying to withhold truth. He's not withholding salvation. He's not doing that. That's not how he operates. He gives a fair chance. He wants everyone to be saved. But he talks about 2 groups of people in this section. One who has been given, the disciples. It's been given to them to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. But to them, the ones that aren't disciples, it has not been given. It is not being given to understand the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. Now, what is the difference between those 2 people? His disciples, which I don't think are just the apostles. I kind of went back and forth, but I think disciples here is probably his broader group of people. And I think the difference between those that's been given, his disciples, and those that hasn't, is a desire to see the truth. And we've seen this played out several times throughout the chapters previous to this. Remember what I said is the chapters, the stories, the teachings, the conflicts that lead up to the discourse often are reflected in the discourse. And the discourse, which is chapter 13, is really going to tell you why these people in chapters 11 and 12 did not hear, did not see, though they saw people, their hands receive strength, and lame men walk, and the people who were blind see, they refused to see it. And this is kind of beginning to say why people are like that. The parable of the sower also was an example of that. There's some people who see it and they are like, I don't want any part of that. I want none of that. There's some who first receive it, but when like the things of this world kind of gets to them, they disappear. They're very shallow. This might be the people who just want their bellies filled. They are just around Jesus for the miracles. And then when he stops revealing miracles and says, I want you to give up your life, then they are like, no, I don't want to do that. And then there's the people that the cares of the world choke up. The people that say, I want to be part of your follower, but then their mom dies, their father dies, they have family problems, they want to live luxuriously, they don't want to sleep with a stone as a pillow. They don't want that kind of life. And then there's other people that actually follow. They see the gospel, they see it as a precious thing, and they follow. That discourse explains why some people chose to follow God and some people didn't. This is another kind of way of explaining that. Some people want to follow Jesus because he is the truth, he is the life, he is everything they want. And other people don't because they're not seeking the truth. So two people can hear the same story, the same parable, and have completely two different results. One person could be seeking the truth. Okay, I want to figure out the kingdom. I want to know what he's talking about. I want to think spiritually. And they will see the implications and this neat story about this parable of sowing. But others don't want the truth. And they'd be like, that's a weird story. Why is he teaching on agriculture or farming? He's not a farmer, he's a carpenter. Why is he talking about that? That's a kind of cool story, I guess, but it's kind of dumb. Why is he throwing seed on the path? That doesn't seem right. So you kind of have that mixture. It's not because he's trying to disguise these things. It's because they are stopping up their own ears and they're stopping up their own eyes. That's why at the very end he said, those who have ears, let them hear. And he'll say that at the end of every one of the sections of the parables. He who has ears, let him hear. And so you have that. These parables are supposed to be picture stories of a heavenly, spiritual metaphor. But if the person is not thinking heavenly, it's not thinking spiritual, not thinking of the future kingdom, but they're focused on their own selfish ambition and what they think is best for the Jewish kingdom, they're not going to get what's behind all these parables. And that really applies to us. Do we think of Christianity as just strictly physical? This is what I have to do. I have to go to church. I have to, give my tithe. I have to do these certain things, and then I am good, I'm righteous, and that's good. Or do we think spiritual? How can I get better? How can I love better? How can I be more kind? How can I be more patient? How can I help my brother and sister in Christ? What can I do? Can I have someone over? Can I get closer to him? Can I just be a listening ear? Can I be a shoulder crier? These different things of how I can be a better person. That's a spiritual person. That's not somebody that is just looking for the physical. What can the church do for me? That is what I can do for the church. And that's the kind of people he's speaking to. People who want the truth. People who want to know what the kingdom is about. And then it continues with this quote from Isaiah. Verse 14, indeed, in their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, you will indeed hear, but never understand. You will indeed see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and their eyes can barely hear, and their eyes have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with the ears and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them. Okay, so many people would say, how dare this God? This is a mean God. This is a terrible God. You know, you will indeed hear, but you'll never understand. You will indeed see, and you'll never perceive. You're a terrible God because you're making it so they can't understand and they can never perceive, and you're making it just impossible for them to come to you. But he gives reasons why they will not understand and they won't perceive, even though they're hearing it. And he says, for these people's heart has grown dull. You've not taken care of your heart. Your heart, which was vibrant and full of love and had a conscience, you've not listened to it. And that's what your ears, they can barely hear. You're not listening to everyone else. You're so closed in. Your eyes no longer look outward. Everything's pointed inward. Your eyes are inward. Your ears are inward. Your heart is grown dull and weary for selfishness. And then he says, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart. If they would just open their eyes and open up the ears and open up their heart for understanding, they could have this. And if they would have this and they would turn, I would heal them. I'm not an unjust God, he's saying. I want to heal them. I want to be with them. And this was not just for the people that Isaiah was prophesying. These are for these people this day. And this is twofold, two things from this. Jesus is willing to heal those that will turn to him. Just like God was willing to heal those and be with those and support those that were with him then in the Old Testament. But two, these Jews are the same type of people that their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers, and their great-great-grandfathers were all those times ago, all those years ago when they were in Isaiah's day. They constantly were hard-hearted and they were stubborn and they didn't turn to God no matter what he did with them. And so he said, I would gladly heal you. I want nothing else to heal you, but you won't turn to me. And it's your own fault. And this is the prophecy that is thus fulfilled once again by another generation of the Jews. And may I say, hopefully it's not us too. Hopefully we don't grow so callous in where we refuse to understand, we refuse to perceive, we refuse to open our eyes and we close our ears and we close our heart and we never make those things where we can pick up the truth. We don't empathize with others' pain. We are turned to vengeance and we turn to hate and we want to stick out our spears to the outside and build up a church as a fortress. We should never be that type of person. Instead, we need to, when someone's in pain, we need to be with them with our eyes and ears and our heart and be with them. May we never be the kind of people that never shy from the truth, that if someone has something against us that we need to change in our lives, help us to have ears that are open and eyes that are open and a heart that is open for that correction that we desperately need. Let's not be stumbling like these Jews did in that day. But he makes there's two different people. These are the people who have not opened their ears. But for the people who do, verse 16, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see and did not see it, and hear what you hear and did not hear it. He says, blessed are you, because your eyes do see and your ears do hear, and you are the ones that are seeing what the prophets long for. All these prophets that prophesied of this Messiah that was come, that good blessings of the wedding and everything that Jesus asked for, these people get to see it. They get to see the fruit and how they were going to bring back God's people back to him once again. Everybody was wondering how this could happen. As Isaiah was prophesying, Isaiah 53, he's got to be wondering, how's that going to work? He's having his scribe potentially read that back to me. I wonder what that means. You have Ezekiel and Jeremiah, all these people that are wanting to understand how God is going to do this wonderful thing that he's prophesying. We've been studying the minor prophets with the young people back in Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I came from. We've been doing Zoom meetings ever since this COVID thing happened. And we've been going through the Minor Prophets, and they're kind of depressing. I must say, they're kind of depressing. Where, like, chapter after chapter, like, at least, 9/10 of the book is, you are terrible, you're going to get this judgment, and you're also terrible, you other nations, and you're going to get this judgment. But the last little section, the last chapter, maybe the last just like 4 verses. But one day the blessings will come, and Jesus will, and God will do this wonderful thing with the Messiah. It's going to be unlike everything we ever see. You have this like little one section in the back that kind of gave you hope that it's going to get better. It's not just judgment, you're terrible, and judgment's going to come, you're all going to be destroyed. There's this hope at the very end. And you got to imagine that the prophets, of any of the sections of scriptures that they read of, they wanted to know how that hope was going to come, how that section of a messianic prophecy was going to come about, and how God would draw his people back to him. And they longed to see it. And Jesus is saying is, because your eyes are open and your ears are open, you get to see it. You get to be a part of it. You get to be part of this wonderful time period that all these prophets prophesied. And that is a blessing for you, and you get to be a part of it. You get to help it grow and become part of the kingdom. And ladies and gentlemen, he's not just talking about the disciples in that day. We are part of this blessed. If our eyes are open and our ears are open, and we see the greatness that the kingdom has brought, we see the greatness that the kingdom has brought to us. And where our ears are open, our eyes are open, we see what the prophets long to see. And we hear what they prophesied, they long to hear. And we have our hearts touched by what they wish that their hearts could be touched. But warning to those who do not have those things. May we ever be the ones who have our eyes open and our ears open and our hearts open. Never be the ones that are closed off. We need to do that in every section of our life, from when we're in the church building on Sunday, to when we're in the workplace on Monday, when we're at the classroom on Tuesday, when we're with people at the grocery store on Thursday, when we're with people in maybe an assisted living or nursing home on Friday. No matter what part of our life is in, when we're with friends, we're with colleagues, we're with coworkers, when we're with just brothers and sisters of Christ, we need to be the kind of people that are open to see, open to hear, and open for their heart. He who has ears, let him hear. We need to be open to listening and hearing, seeing, and touching, and being touched by the words of Christ in the truth. Let us never be closed off to the truth, but always open and look at our lives to see if we're reflecting that truth. I know this is a shorter section, but I didn't want to get into the next sections because these parables really tie to each other. And so I'm wanting to put those all together. But hopefully this is encouragement to you. This is hopefully the pick-me-up you needed to try to get you through the rest of your week. I know it's a crazy time with everything that's going on, but we need to pay attention to Christ and his message and the message that God's given us. And we'll get through this. We've gotten through this before, and there's been a lot worse things in the past, especially the first century and beyond, that was way worse than what we're going through now. And they survived because God's will survive, and we will get through this no matter what. I hope you have a wonderful week, and if you need anything, reach out to me and let me know how I can help. I hope to see you Sunday if you can, and if it can't, I'll try to get in contact with you. That way I can check up on you. Take care and hope you have a great week.